All right, everybody. Welcome to the Scho-Zone. It is your host, Ryan Schofield. I am live according to YouTube. So, yeah, thank you for tuning in. Nobody right now, but I just posted this and really don't care if anybody's in here. Oh, I got somebody in here. Cool. Awesome. But yeah, against my better judgment, I literally just took a bong hit about 2 seconds before I hit record on this one. So, anyways, welcome. Hell of a game. Where do we get started? I guess my immediate reaction would be that for a game that went to overtime and was close all throughout the fourth quarter, it didn't feel that exciting. And I want to say it might have to do with Tony Romo. Uh, I found myself, and that's just could be my fault. I only watched the game with one person. I'm sure he's happy that I'm out of there because well, I felt that I was more interesting than Tony Romo at least. So I kept pointing out all of the just what an idiot he is, or just how insufferable he is during the games. And this was something that was pointed out a while ago when he first came into the booth by, everyone thought it was the old announcers. I think it was Al Michaels or somebody that were, talking a little bit of shit saying that, he's doing it wrong. He's cutting his guy off, or he's relying on his knowledge from him being immediately in the NFL or coming from the NFL and going into the booth. And that that when he falls out of hat with what's going on in the league, he's not going to be as good anymore. Felt like that everyone was looking at them as just being old and hating on him. No, it looks pretty right because he's pretty bad, and yet he's in the Super Bowl, and somehow Greg Olsen is going to be getting demoted to Tom Brady. I'm sure Tom Brady will be good in the media at first, maybe not, but Greg Olsen was good. Anyways, I felt that was something that took away from the Super Bowl, but I gotta tip my cap to Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs, and really, actually, I would say Chris Jones as well too. Mahomes won the game at the end. That is a team win for sure. That was really. I honestly, in the first half, I thought the Chiefs were going to fight at one point. Just the way that the vibe on that sideline, they seemed like that they were. It seemed like there was something more going on, and yeah, I had pointed out to the person I watched the game with that I thought Andy Reid looks a little bit not well almost. And then when Travis Kelce bumped into him, he didn't bump into him that hard that Andy Reid just fell. But that was just a really, really bizarre sequence to see. The Niners were only up 3-0, and I don't think they scored until very early in the second quarter, which was good for me and then ended up being bad. I'll go over the gambling coverage or how the event went for me in a little bit. Or just any good bets that I saw that may have hit. But yeah, no, they were only down like 3-0, and it just seemed like it was much, much worse, which that should have been my sign that I maybe should have taken a spot on the Chiefs in the game, because for how badly it felt like the Niners outplayed the Chiefs, for the game to be as close as it was, only be a one-score game. That's never good, especially when the Chiefs were going to be getting the ball in the second half. Again, it's one of those things where, again, I think that the new overtime rule also kind of, it felt like took away from the the overtime game's never going to tie, but the clock becomes meaningless, especially, I guess, there's a preferable side of the field, but it was an indoor game, so that wasn't a big deal. But it's really weird watching how in the fourth quarter the teams play with such urgency, or that they are up against that clock. It does matter what happens, where then you go to a situation where the game goes back, like literally they said it basically just starts a new game. It's kind of strange how then all of a sudden there's no urgency, or that seemed like the lack of pace of the game. I have always hated some of these new overtime rules when it goes to sudden death, because I've always felt that the team that gets the ball second in overtime gets the advantage. And I really, really have to wonder, have anybody really had thought ahead to a playoff overtime game, the scenarios. But if I am taking the ball against Patrick Mahomes, I am most certainly making sure that, with how easy it is to get a field goal, especially when you had, again, a sore subject from the gambling side of things, if you had as many field goals that were being kicked from as deep as they were in that game, you have to concede that you're going to be giving up. If a team gets the ball at the 25-yard line, they were only needed 30 some odd yards to be in field goal range, about 35 yards, and they're in field goal range based on how the game was playing out. So that's not a whole lot of room to work with. So if you're the Chiefs or if you're the 49ers, you can't get down in the red zone and be content with a field goal. Did you really think, because your next option is that you were going to have to then the best case scenario was hoping for a field goal there. I mean, yeah, I know they forced a 4th and 1, but again, with Mahomes and the way that they draw up those plays, his ability with the legs and just how they run that game with him and Kelsey. I mean, it was pick your poison on that one. I don't know how you defend that, or you probably spend an entire offseason figuring out how to defend something like that. You don't really do it on the spot probably so well. So, yeah, that was there's a blunder on Shanahan's part of that, the plays that he called down at the red zone. I don't think he really was calling as much in four down territory. That's it was, I don't know. It always felt like I was up against it, but anyways, from the gambling side of things, I did have, if you did listen, there was only a few of you that listened, but I thank you if you did, that's or watched or tuned in. That's my punt return bets. That was one of I'm going to give myself a round of applause on that one. That was one of the best bets I feel like I've ever found or made. The bet that I'm talking about was in the game. There was a prop on DraftKings for the longest punt return to be over under 17.5 yards. When I bet that, it was minus 110. I broke down all the research on that. I saw that the number should have been more like 9.5 for that game. There was 12 total punt return yards in the entire game. So that was, and there was a lot of fucking punts too. And there was a lot of them that occurred in places on the field that I said I would be vulnerable on, but each team had a really shaky return. In fact, where the game really, really swung was when the 49ers had their terrible punt return experience where they fumbled. It was weird because it hit off of a guy's leg, and then the returner, who is in a position where he never should be touching the ball, does have to touch the ball, picking up a football. I'm not going to kill the returner so much. Those are two thoughts I had. I'm not going to kill the return guy for that. It's just a horrible circumstance. He didn't make a play, but I'm not going to say that he made a mistake. It wasn't, it was just a freak play, and he did not do best. I mean, the Chiefs, the way it comes is that, I guess that they when a team wins a Super Bowl, and especially when this was not their best team, it's a team of destiny. It has to be. It's just there's no other way to explain it. And it's not the fucking script. That's if people are trying to be funny, it's not anymore. And if people are being serious, I'm really starting to get concerned. It's not a miracle they've won 3 out of 4 Super Bowls when they do have, the best quarterback in the league. He's just the best player. And again, I just have to get used to that. From a traditional quarterback standpoint, he did not play a very, very good game, but it's almost kind of like he almost reminded me of Vince Young in the USC game where it was just, he was, not quite the way with the legs, but the biggest plays made on there were with his legs, not his arm. I will say the throw that he made to Mecole Hardman was probably one of the better throws I've ever seen him make as a pro. I believe the safety didn't think that Mahomes could hit that target from that far away because he kind of just gave up on it, but literally nails Mahomes or Hardman in the breadbasket down there, which they then had the Pacheco fumble, which was literally neutralized by the 49ers fumble. So there was, none of that there. The McCaffrey fumble to start the game, that was huge, obviously, but the 49ers did demonstrate a lack of, I can't say lack of creativity because one of their touchdowns was the reverse pass there, but it really seems that they struggled in the red zone. For all the players that they have there to not have an answer down there, that was a bit bit concerning, I would say. Really, yeah, no, they came out with a really good game script, I would say, the 49ers, but the Chiefs then, there was there's a lot of fucking punts in that game. It was just, it was wild. Like, I actually forgot because the way McCaffrey started off the game, I had one of my dumb same game parlays where I had him for 80 rushing yards, and I looked down and I realized that he didn't. But I guess that will be the betting recap. Let me go from there because that's something I can talk about comfortably and confidently because I did have a profitable Super Bowl, not as quite the event that I would like to have considering the amount of money I put down, but it's better than losing, right? So let's see. What do we have for the final card here? And we'll go through one by one. So the biggest of the day, the one that basically guaranteed that I was not going to be losing, but if I did, that was going to really suck, was the longest punt return under 17.5 yards. I gave it one out. By the time the game kicked off, that one was going off at minus 200. that was really a mistake on DraftKings' part. Curious to see. Well, again, there was a unique set of circumstances given the teams. I felt that there was just not much of a chance. I mean, there was a bunch of fair catches. I think there was only actually like 3 returns, and the longest one was, I think it was a 12-yard return that the Chiefs had, and then the Niners just did absolutely nothing in the return game. But good coverages, good punts. Longest field goal under. There's nothing worse than a good friend of mine who texted me, going, "Hey man, I just placed my first bet, and it's that field goal one you were always talking about." I know that, and this is what's weird. I have to die by the sword because I've been talking about this bet for so long. I did make it for a large amount, but it was not as big as the punt return bet. So that's why I was really, really racking those. I started doing like a little live stream, like, because I was thinking maybe there was gonna be like 6 or 7 punts in this game. But no, there was like 9, I think so, which is only 2 more, but it felt like a lot more when every one of them could have been as expensive as they were. But McCaffrey with the most rushing and receiving yards at -155. Yes, you had to lay a lot of juice on that, but there wasn't anybody close. The Kelsey most receptions, I kind of thought I had no chance of that one. He only had 1 in the first half, and it seemed that the Niners had really gotten him locked down, and then he blew up and he ended up with 9. I wish I had a little bit more something on that. The one that actually, it was, I had to sweat a little bit more. I had the San Fran by 1 to 6 points and KC by 1 to 6 points. And when that went into overtime, I was like, oh, I already have a winner. And then I realized that they have these new rules, and I'm like, no shit, somebody might go up by 7. Which the other thing was going to be was, would somebody have had the balls to go for 2 for on a touchdown? Would the Niners? I doubt the Niners would have. But if I was the Chiefs, I probably would have gone for 2. Like, one of the issues I have with this overtime is that those defenses were cooked. The Chiefs just made that one play, or Purdy did not make that play, I guess I would say, where Mahomes did. But defenses were pretty fucking cooked there. Where I started off the day okay was, I did, Super Bowl scoring does start off slow. I mean, we didn't have any points till the second quarter, I believe. Yeah, it was 0-0 at the end of the first quarter. The no score all the way through, I climbed the ladder from no score for the first 6 minutes all the way to the first 7.5 minutes. Cleaned up all of those, and then also Mahomes over on rushing. I did at one point in time fire in on the 49ers. It did feel like it was going pretty well. I should have probably taken, I mean, I had the Niners money line. I should have taken the Chiefs plus points at some point, but I kind of stopped monitoring that as much because, I thought until the punt return, it's just when it swings as quickly as it did because of the punt return fumble turn into the touchdown, bam, bam, you just don't ever get a good spot to do that, because up until then, I really thought, I mean, I was actually starting the whole talk about, wow, is Mahomes going to have a second Super Bowl that he doesn't score a touchdown in? Because again, for about 3 quarters, which is where he separates himself, for about 3 quarters, it was not looking really good. I mean, he's all 4 Super Bowls. He has trailed by 10 points at some point in time. I guess it's a testament to his greatness that he has still won 2 of them. But that's a dangerous, dangerous game to play, I would say. But, nobody is perfect. Nobody is perfect. I'm not going to say that I'm holding him to that standard. It's just that sometimes I feel like he is described as such. Halftime show, it's, you used to joke around when you were younger, who do they have these for? It's for my parents. Well, that was when I was saying shit like that, I was probably my parents' age. So having the Usher and Ludacris and all those guys out there, obviously I'm not a huge on the scene, but I definitely heard a bunch of those songs where it was like I didn't know what song I was hearing, but I'm like, I is this one? But yeah, it was pretty okay, I guess. It was nice when it was pretty neutral. It was, I would say, one of the ironic things was seeing "End Racism" and then right next to it having the Chiefs logo, which, having the tomahawk chalk chance, I don't care, but some people do. So it's kind of strange that that one still goes on, but I guess it's not going anywhere because, whatever. Lost on some long shot stuff like McKinnon, anytime touchdown scorer. He was kind of a non-factor. For a little while, the San Fran no sacks allowed was looking pretty solid, but nothing, no dice there. Yeah, somebody had, I know, had a 35-1 on there being a which is a bet that I kind of tinkered around with, but there were some things I looked at that was like, okay, like this could happen, but I've had some Super Bowls where when I balance out the ledger and I'm like, why didn't I win as much? It's because, oh wow, those $10, $20, give it a shot type things. If they lose, they add up. If you got to win at least one or two of them. One of them I had thought about was attempted passes. For some reason, I thought there may have been a Kelsey pass in there. I don't know why I was thinking that one, but 49ers pulled that off. And it was crazy because, yes, Patrick Mahomes, I'm sure he won the MVP. I didn't pay attention to anything afterwards. I literally just started recording this after I got back to my place, or my studio, I should say. Yeah, make this sound legit. And what the hell was I just oh yeah, they were saying Mahomes was the clear-cut MVP on the end of the broadcast, and I was like, yeah, he was, but for a little while there, it was Juwan Jennings was the clear-cut MVP, actually, because he was going to have the receiving touchdown, he was going to have the passing touchdown. At least I hope he was going to be the clear-cut MVP. I had thought that there was a case for Chris Jones to be MVP, but it was weird because I'm not sure if he had any sacks, but he was the reason for disrupting. I mean, Purdy did, the play with Debo in the end zone. Purdy, was disrupted by Chris Jones. I don't know how much the hit affected it, or if Purdy just didn't stand into the pocket as well for the hitter, just didn't, stand through the throw as well. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on that one. But then down at the final possession, Chris Jones also disrupted. He really was a difference maker on the defensive side of the ball. Their corners were great, which, for them to call in overtime, the holding call that they called, that was pretty, they were letting him play. I mean, honestly, there was a play towards the end of the game where Mahomes took one down, which, by the way, the game, I will say, Mahomes, the forgotten facts of Super Bowls sometimes. Like, we do have the helmet catch, but everyone forgets the play before Asante Samuel dropped the pick six. There was the bad snap by Humphrey that Mahomes, when he kind of, did a little scram around and just threw it up for grabs. If that ball was not tipped by the linebacker, I'm pretty sure that safety was going to be able to make a play on that ball, and he was going to have a lot of space to operate. And I feel like that it was a very unsettled situation. That one could have turned really interesting. I may have lost on the 1-6, we'll just say, if that play had happened, and it would have been something if Mahomes, just a little thing there. I'm not going to be somebody that brings that all up. He's great. I just, now that he has won the third Super Bowl, yes, now we can have more of these conversations because, just got to have these play out. I mean, he is every bit as good as he is, but there's nothing wrong with waiting, I guess. That's just where I would say. It's funny because at the end of the game, I did hear a little, like, the post-game interviews a little bit, and I did hear Mahomes say, the Chiefs are never underdogs. And I mean, honestly, it's to a point of, we don't know what the roster is going to look like, and I can only imagine it's going to get harder to get it better with having to pay some of the players that they do. But yeah, I might just, so I can hate them all year but have a payday. Maybe, I mean, just put $100 on them. Like, right now, they're probably like 6 or 7-1 to win the Super Bowl next year. Just at least have that going on there. And like, I don't hate them at all. Like, I was actually thinking of this earlier. I don't like to have to talk negative about Patrick Mahomes or anybody. I actually want to start talking more positively about people, not negatively. It's just that I have to, the evaluations of him is what I talk negatively, where it's like, there are some chinks in the armor. He is not always perfect, and we saw that today. But I guess that is, again, just a testament to his greatness, is that he did find a way to win that game. I will say that those were some tremendous play calls that he even made credit to in his little post-game interview there, which, again, I'm sure he won the post-game MVP. I'll just say it's, I'm going to talk positive about Taylor Swift. I enjoyed it. She was partying. I was actually worried that if she had drank a little too much, that the game was maybe a little too much for her. I was also wondering if, had they lost, would she cry? And if she did, would they put the camera on her, or would that have been like, that could have been a very polarizing moment. The what ifs of sports, but hey, if things are meant to be for those kids, and if the script writers keep it up for some of you, as you guys would say, because now we have the other thing too, is that we're going to get COVID 2024. I will say that meme, there was an awful lot of fucking coincidences on there, but if there really is something that like has been rigging this whole world for that long, hats off to you. Actually, it has been quite entertaining the entire time around, I must say. But again, the Chiefs could just be good. He could just be dating a pop star. He could have just taken a contract with a company, because he did say before the season that he doesn't get paid as much as he probably should. Kind of admitted that he is shortchanged at the tight end position for what he's paid. So yeah, so he took a big payday. That does not mean, I mean, yes, you can draw the conclusions you want to from it, but sometimes I think it's just that simple. I mean, I really don't think that he's going to be changing anybody's mind. And from what I understand, if you go to a Chiefs game, it's fucking Magaville and nothing but bush lights. So I don't think that, he's, convincing anybody to do that. I mean, I did see one of the funny tweets I saw during the Super Bowl. There was a guy, he used to be a caller on Jim Rome show. His name is Greg in Vegas. His shtick when he was on the Jim Rome show as a caller was always to get kicked off the show as a caller, which I never understood why they still took his calls. But he said that Andy Reid, to rally the Chiefs up, is going to say, win one for the guys that froze to the fentanyl guys that froze in the backyard in Kansas City. Obviously, I butchered the joke, and it's probably pretty terrible, but it was funny to me at the time. No, other than that, I mean, it was kind of up until the end of the game. It was not. Fourth quarter was good, but that was really a dull. I mean, the first quarter was only about a half an hour. It was not one of the better all times, but it did have the new overtime. And then Super Bowl squares, if you had 2 or 5, you probably never think you have a chance with those numbers, and those did. Which maybe that's going to be a good year for me, because my birthday is May 25th, so 525's always been a big deal for me. I saw that I at one point had 2 people. Now I lost one, so I must really kind of, maybe the bong hit before, as I have to look at myself, was not the best idea. Obviously, I'm still ranting like a lunatic because, again, a little charged up for the degenerate season. But those were just some of my thoughts on the Super Bowl. The new overtimes I hate. Tony Romo absolutely sucked. Oh yeah, another thing was a friend of mine who took the Des Bryant catch against the Packers a little bit. It is interesting how was Kyle Juszczyk's ball a catch, but Des Bryant's wasn't. Maybe they gave a difference to that. But I kind of was trying to tune out the broadcast, or I was probably talking over it. But yeah, so the Chiefs are your champions. And again, maybe if there was a better broadcaster, that game could have been a little bit more exciting for what it was. But thank you for tuning in. Just wanted to get that out there. So now I'm going to go watch what everyone else thinks, and then I'll probably watch this back and realize it was probably a mistake to do this. But thank you for sticking it out, or if you watch this on the retro. But if you did win some money on anything I said to you, then you're welcome. If you lost on the field goal one, it's a 12-4 bets. Hopefully it's not one of those regression to the mean things. Hopefully it just is a bit winner. But the new trend on that one is nothing that involves Harrison Butker, because nothing like having the record set. If you're going to get beat, you might as well get beat by the best, is the way to go. And I did lose some bets because of Patrick Mahomes, and I lost to the best, and losing to record-setting kicks, which, oh yeah, that was the other one. Nothing was Jake Moody's fault on there. When you make 2 53-yard field goals, it's okay. Or you make 2 50-plus-yard field goals, it's okay if you botch an extra point. I hated that they showed the camera on him at the end, because the game would have played out much differently. They were kind of making it seem like they were only in this position because of his missed kick. The game would have played out differently. That's all I can say. Everybody have a good evening.